The University of Tennessee and former Chancellor Beverly Davenport have agreed to part ways. A Board of Trustees committee today approved a separation agreement that will give Davenport more than $1.3 million. 10 News reporter Mark Salinger has the details on that departure. Mark?
John, Davenport's final day at the university will be today. This comes just over a month after the system president fired her as chancellor and well before she was set to assume her new position as a tenured professor in the School of Communication.
Aye.
Mr. Price?
One by one, they voted.
Aye.
A unanimous decision to approve a separation agreement between the University of Tennessee and former Chancellor Beverly Davenport.
The President has decided that an amicable resolution of a claim by or potential litigation with Dr. Davenport is in the university's best financial and other interests.
Davenport's short time at the University of Tennessee came to an end Tuesday, just over a month after UT System President Joe DiPietro fired her. She was set to become a tenured professor in the School of Communication, but that will no longer happen.
Dr. Davenport's employment will end today, and today she irrevocably resigns.
In the agreement, Davenport will receive $1.33 million and will resign from her position as a tenured professor before she ever stepped into a classroom. The agreement also states that Kentucky native cannot seek reemployment with the university or the state of Tennessee. Neither Davenport nor DiPietro were present at the committee meeting today. Most of the trustees called in via telephone for the vote.
I think I, along with all the trustees, were very hopeful that when we hired our first female chancellor, it was going to be successful. I'm sorry that it was not a successful outcome.
The university says none of the money used to fund the buyout will come from taxpayers, student tuition, or donor funds. University of Tennessee General Counsel Matthew Scoggins says it will all come from licensing revenue and interest income.
And we do not expect Davenport to speak publicly about her firing. The agreement states she cannot make any comments that portray the University of Tennessee in a negative light or reflect unfavorably on the university.